This is something which I said almost 2 years ago on BBC television, and which I repeat today. And I think people will understand why I have strenuously resisted the government's efforts to extradite me from France. I've made a point here that at the moment my attitude towards the government is in a state of flux, because my family, my publishers, my friends have all been asking me whether it's not time to call it a day. I have dealt with that in my statement, and I don't want to expand on that at this stage. I've made several points here for a moment, or for a few moments, to consider what I and my family and my friends have been through the past 2 years. There's one particular case which I want to read out for the record, because I think this is important. I've said here that my brothers, Professor Nick Rhoodie and Dr. Eschel Rhoodie, were accused by the Erasmus Commission of wrongdoing. Yet over a period of 20 months, not a single policeman came to see Professor Rhoodie, although he invited, with the question whether it is reasonable of anyone to expect of me, having experienced what I have had in the past 2 years, to call it a day. I have emphasized that I do not have it against the government, and I do not have it against the National Party. As far as I'm concerned, there is a political quartet who is responsible for what has happened to me. I've raised a matter here which I consider to be extremely serious, and that is the attitude and the role of the Attorney General in my prosecution. I've made the point here that the Attorney General, who is duty-bound to provide the court with all such information as is necessary and required by the judge to come to a fair verdict, that the Attorney General did not do so. And furthermore, even during the discussions in front of the judges of the appeal court, the Attorney General made a statement which is factually totally inaccurate. I'm referring here to page 6, paragraph 7. I consider this an extremely serious matter. Then I've made the point here that after everything that I've said and experienced, and because of the respect which I have for the wishes of my wife and my family, that I will consider calling it a day, no matter how painful or unjust the situation may be. But I also hope that the government would reflect about this situation. I've made a proposal here that I would like to show to the press, to a representative delegation from the press, certain documents which I possess, just to indicate to you that I'm not bluffing when I say that I have information in my possession which could seriously jeopardize the political careers further conflict. Be able to tell whether this is authentic or not. The matters relating to the government's...
Absolutely clear in my own mind. From a legal point of view, is this the end? Can the government take any further action against you?
I have been given to understand that the government cannot take any further action. That is the agreement between the French and the South African governments on this matter.
The other point is, how do you yourself view this acquittal? Do you see it as laying the blame fairly and squarely at the door of Mr. Forster and Mr. Mulder and the real culprits in the matter?
No. I have already 2 years ago laid the blame for this matter at the front of Mr. Forster and the ministers of his government at the time. I think the appeal court's verdict was based, the judgment was based purely on the facts of the matter. I haven't had an opportunity to study the appeal court's judgment. I believe it is 85 pages. Therefore, it's a little premature for me to give you any further reply to your question. Most definitely so.
Definitely so.
And you lay the blame mostly on Mr. Forster?
I lay the blame on Mr. Forster and the ministers in his government who formed the cabinet committee who monitored the secret projects, and others who were not members of that committee.
Which is an academic study. And then I'm contractually obliged to produce in the next 6 months 2 other works. But I don't think anybody can blame me. I intend to get into the business of export-import as soon as possible. You will understand that I've had the opportunity over the years abroad to make important high-level contacts in various countries, and I intend to make use of those contacts. Otherwise, I have some further research which I have to do on. For that, there would have been champagne. Yes. I know the guy I've been for 25 years. It'll probably be the best spy they could possibly employ now.
Dr. Rhoodie, do you still feel the Information Department's secret projects were justified?
Oh yes, of course so. Of course so. With the exception of 3 or 4 or maybe even 10 projects out of the 150 which didn't go the way we thought they would, I believe in those projects. I think they were well justified and they paid dividends. And if the stuff didn't leak out, we would still have been able to land, for example, at the Seychelles.
Would you go back to such projects again?
No. Circumstances. And if I do, my wife would divorce me within 5 minutes.
Thank you.
For secret operations being found out? A free man.
I've got a lot of writing to do, and I want to get in business in export-import, and I've got some contractual obligations as far as newspaper articles and so on concerned. But basically I want to go into business now, and I want to finish writing the various books that I intend to complete in the next year or so.
Will you be travelling to Britain?
I will be travelling to Britain, yes. I have a son at school there.
There were, during the whole scandal, lots of suggestions that politicians and others in Britain were involved and implicated. Will you be naming those sort of people?
Politicians in Britain were involved, yes. And I am considering whether I should name them.
Thanks very much.
Will you be naming anyone in the United States in connection with the Washington Star?
I'm dealing in depth in my book on the Washington Star and Sacramento Union project, and also in what way we got involved in certain political projects there. I don't want to disclose that at this moment, but it does not affect the Congress as such, but it does affect the Senate. More than that, I don't want to say.
Was Mr. McGough very involved?
Not in the political matters. We saw Mr. McGough as a good friend of South Africa. He was a good friend of South Africa long before the Washington Star project came up. He was not involved in any political maneuvering. We were just giving him a helping hand to expand his